The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
User joined your channel.
Yes, hello and good evening, my friends. Welcome to All You Can Eat, episode number 33. This is your host, Robert Rosenthal, coming to you live from New York City, New York. Fortunate to have a beautiful day here, still November the 7th. And we hit about 60 degrees here with blue skies, so a good time to be out and about. And excited about tonight's show for a variety of reasons. You know that All You Can Eat is the show about deliciousness in all of its lovely iterations. I'm going to talk a lot about hamburgers tonight. In fact, I am fortunate to have with us on tonight's program a guest, Patrick Montgomery, who I will introduce you to later, and the man knows something about the kind of ground beef that should go into the best possible hamburgers. So that's why I want to spend some time on hamburgers. Before we get there, though, tonight's podcast is brought to you, interestingly enough, by a product called Nod Pod, which has nothing to do with podcasts, but it's this unbelievable sleep mask. Weighted sleep mask. Now, I know that generally when we have a show that's brought to you by anybody, any kind of supporter, advertiser, that generally it's in the food thing, in the food sphere. But I was so thrilled by this product that I'm here to recommend this one to you with all of my heart. So the Nod Pod is literally a sleep mask. You put it on when you're ready to go to bed, but unlike the ones that you might be familiar with, which kind of like flat, the kind you actually get like on an airplane, these are weighted, and you kind of tie it behind your head. It's very easy, and it doesn't use a strap, so you can kind of tie this weighted sleep mask on your head. And I'm telling you, it helps you sink into a deep and restful sleep in whatever position you're in, because basically the concept is that when you have gentle pressure, you get better sleep. That's basically the theory that this is predicated on. And I'm just telling you, I would normally not believe that myself. Except that for the past 2 or 3 weeks, I have been sleeping like a baby. Like a baby. Now, maybe it's because I am eating and drinking far less. Certainly that helps. Maybe as the weather gets cooler, sure, that helps. But having a darkness when you sleep, and having this weighted mask, for whatever reason, I don't think it's any coincidence, I'm loving this product. I can't wait to fall asleep, and I put it on every night before I go to bed. Nod Pod, weighted sleep therapy, nodpod.com. So that's part one of our story tonight. Now let's get into food. And I said I wanted to talk about burgers, but even before we get into the burger thing, I was invited to a dinner last night here in New York City. It was kind of a media thing. I was there to experience and write about the experience at a new restaurant here in New York City called Ristoro del Cinghiale, which basically translates into Ristoro is kind of like restore. You know what I mean? It's like the base of the word restaurant. Del Cinghiale is wild boar in Italian, right? So it's a restaurant that specializes in the cuisine of Tuscany. And let me tell you something, by the way, if you have not been to Tuscany or Italy in general, the food over there is spectacular. And what's most kind of memorable about the food of Tuscany is going to be the the steak, bistecca fiorentina, for example. It's going to be the cinghiale, the wild boar, and it's going to be, well, red wine, Chianti for one. So the restaurant is on East 27th, and it's right next door to another restaurant here in town called I Trulli, which is an Italian restaurant owned by this very same man. So 24 years at I Trulli, he has decided to expand and open up a restaurant right next door that is devoted to the cuisine of Tuscany. Great. Excuse me, sorry. So the first thing you notice, by the way, when you get in is that there is a wood-burning oven. Now, that's a good damn sign, because when you live in a big city, it's not necessarily normal or usual for a lot of restaurants to have wood-burning oven. Now, of course, there are some pizza places here in the city that are fortunate enough to have a wood-burning oven. But now we're talking about a restaurant that is not making any pizza. So when I talk to you about wild boar or steak, I mean, they're using, a wood-burning oven to produce some food, and it's spectacular because the heat is intense. And the flavoring is great because it's kind of accented with that lovely smell from the wood. It's just beautiful. I'm going to tell you what they served last night, and I'll also tell you, by the way, that the reason that I even accepted the invitation is because they bring over a special guest for last night's dinner, and his name is Dario Cecchini. Dario Cecchini is an 8th generation butcher from a little town in right outside of Florence called Panzano. He is literally known as the Butcher of Panzano. And I'm telling you this because I know Dario. I know Dario because last April, which is only now 6 months ago, I spent 3 days with him in New Orleans. He was there to do like a whole meat show, exposition, whatever you want to call it. We ate beef for days. Love the guy. He's there with his wife, Kim. Interviewed them on for the Daily Meal. I mean, if you went to the Daily Meal, for example, and you wanted to see this interview with Dario, you'd go to the Daily Meal. You search video for, I guess, Dario Cecchini. Anyway, so he shows up last night as the special guest because he knows the owner of the restaurant. And so I go because I'm going to see Dario and Kim, but now I'm going to give you just a sense of what we ate last night. They start off with what they call tagliere, which is really artisanal kind of cured meats. So there's going to be some prosciutto, which is beautiful. There's going to be some different type of salami. They bring over next some crostini, which are like little toasted breads, and they have to dip a ricotta cheese that has some honey in it, which is just delightful. I frankly could have had it for dessert. It was that good. Dario makes what he calls a tonno del Chianti. Now, tonno means tuna, and this has nothing to do with tuna. It is literally braised pork, but they break it down in such a way that it has the texture almost of when if you ever have like tuna tartare, the raw kind of tuna that's served. So it's braised pork and capers and served cold and is magnificent. And they're serving all this with a Chianti Classico from 2016, which is also made by the very owner of this restaurant. He's got his own vineyard in Tuscany. He's back and forth every 6 weeks, which, to tell you the truth, that's a pretty damn good job right there. But delicious, right? Now they're going to serve 2 pasta courses. So first comes your gnocchi. I mean, even just reading it back, frankly, my mouth is watering because it was so great. Now, gnocchi, are those little kind of potato-y pastas, little kind of almost like miniature kind of dumplings. This is classic. And this one is served with mushroom and sage. And they serve a Chianti Classico Reserva with this. So, I mean, everybody by now is happy. There's not only the wood-burning fireplace, there's a wood-burning oven, there's also a wood-burning fireplace, delightful, everybody's lovely and happy and great. Then they come up with a garganielle, which is served with a wild boar sausage. Okay, garganielle pasta is tubular-shaped but ridged and handmade, and fantastic. A different Chianti served with that, which is why I started to lose focus at that point. And then they come over with what to me was the highlight of the meal. Now, you know they're going to bring over bisteca fiorentina, which they fired up in this wood-fired. It's porterhouse steak fired up in this wood-fired grill. So I mean, and it's on the bone and it's giant and it's delicious. But they also bring out the arista di cinghiale. And what is that? That is a rack of wild boar. Now, when I first walked into the restaurant and took a look around, I see this enormous platter of what I assume are racks of lamb. And I say, what's with all the lamb? They go, no, that's actually the wild boar. They've roasted this stuff. They've hit it up with all kinds of like Tuscan herbs. And so you have essentially, you're eating kind of the meat. You're eating it off the ribs, and then there are this crunchy part which I can't even do justice to, other than to say that I will be back, because that was the most spectacular piece of meat that I had there last night. The wild boar roasted in the oven with these kind of Tuscan herbs, and crispy and juicy and utterly fantastic. Some side of cannellini beans, some braised greens. Even some roasted rosemary potatoes. Man, I'm remembering how great those were. And I don't even remember the dessert because I chose not to have it. But the highlight, other than the roasted boar and maybe more wine than I really was contemplating having, and I did even try the Negroni. They have a Negroni. They have a Negroni program. I mean, literally, they make 6 different kinds of Negroni, and the one that I had last night, made with Japanese gin, was the single best Negroni I've ever had. And it's not like I have them all the time. I am not the Negroni expert, but I've had enough to know that the one I had last night was just superb. So, for those that are fortunate enough to be in the New York City environment, and are interested in a meal that tastes, resembles, feels like Tuscany in its deliciousness, in its charm. What do you call this place again? Is the Ristoro del Cinghiale. What a fabulous place on East 27th. And further to all that, as if that wasn't enough, into the restaurant walks Samin. What is Samin's last name? Hang on, this is important here. Samin Nasrat, Nosrat. She cooks, she writes, she teaches. Samin is an Iranian-American chef who wrote a book. And the book is called, what does she call this book? Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. Mastering the Elements of Good Cooking. Now, I didn't read the book, but they took that book and they took Samin and they produced a 4-part docuseries that is running right now on Netflix. If you have Netflix and you have the slightest interest in cooking or good food, I'm telling you, get to Netflix and get Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, because I watched 4 hours in a row, and I will watch it yet again. I'm a guy with a professional culinary degree with 600 hours plus of training, and I'm watching her show, and I tell you, I learned things. So it's important to understand, by the way, part of what made it brilliant, she's charming, she's traveling around the world. One of the people that she actually cooked with along the way is Dario Cecchini, the butcher of Panzano, the guy that I call literally the LeBron James of international butchers. Lovely man, and obviously gifted and one of the greats at what he does. So Samin shows up, and that is just my reminder to tell you that if you should have Netflix, you're going to want to watch Salt, Fat, Heat, Acid, Heat. A 4-part docuseries. You can always go onto Amazon and buy the book. I remember seeing it up there today. Not inexpensive. My book you can grab, short order dead, probably $10, maybe less. Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, they're going to get $29 from you. And yet, I'm going to pick it up. I just loved watching her, and she was there last night, so that was a treat. Now, one of the things I want to say is it's a perfect segue into the discussion of hamburgers. Why? Because if you think about the quintessential American foods, one of them, I mean, if I had to name, what are the three most quintessential foods in America and in American history, I would argue, one is going to be a hamburger. And I would say that maybe another one would be, a hot dog. And I would say if I had a third one, it would be pizza. And the thing about the hot dog is, prime time for the hot dog, let's face it, is going to be, midsummer. I mean, that's easy. It's not that you don't eat them all year long, but you associate the hot dog with the summer, whether it's because you're throwing them on the grill or you're eating them at a ball game. It's not that we don't have them all year long. It's just that hamburgers we do and pizza we do. Those are like every day, and every day is a possible day to have a burger or a pizza. And the point that I want to make about the burger is, coming off of this discussion about samin and salt, fat, acid, heat, is that the burger is actually not only the quintessential American food, but it is one of the great examples of what Samin talks about in her docuseries, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. Because if you think about the burger, it's going to have salt. Because when you make a burger, at some point in the cooking process, not as you're putting the meat blend together, but like when that thing finally hits the grill, that's the time you salt it, right? So you're going to have salt involved in a burger. You are going to have fat. There is no question that you're going to have fat. The question is only what percentage of your burger meat will be fat. Some people will tell you 80-20 is the ideal composition, whatever it is. We can talk about that with Patrick in a little while. And then there's going to be heat because nobody's eating a burger that's uncooked, right? So you have 3 of the 4 ingredients. And then there's acid. And acid is the most kind of under, let's say, appreciated or under kind of recognized in terms of its importance in your eating experience. Now you're going to ask me, where is there acid in a hamburger? And the answer is, you may not find it in the burger itself. You may not find it in the bun. But when it comes to condiments, whether you use, for example, ketchup or mustard, both of those have in them, as a primary ingredient, by the way, some vinegar. When you look at a hamburger and you see it with a pickle on it, you're getting acid from the pickle, right? So somewhere in the great burgers, generally speaking, even the tomato, by the way, tomato is not without some level of acidity itself. But in the great burgers of your life, you will notice, for the most part, and there are going to be some minor notable exceptions, that you will have also some degree of acid in there. And the acid is important because not only does it stimulate your taste palate, but moreover, it is a balance to the richness from the meat. And in addition to all of those things that you get in a burger, the salt, the fat, the heat, and the acid, you get also what they call the fifth taste. You get umami, right? The best way to describe umami is savory. And the best places that you get savory are from things like charred meat, right? So, the hamburger is one of them. It's not a coincidence, by the way, that we love this food. And by the way, to say nothing of the fact that it comes on a bread product, usually a soft bread product, like a hamburger roll or potato roll. And so you have you have that element of it too, which just adds another whole dimension. So the burger really is, not only the quintessential American food, but I mean, one of the great arguments for why all of these things coming together make for this joyful, incredible, voluptuous eating experience. Now, that said, let's just, before we go to Patrick, who I'm going to introduce you to, I just want to run one other thing here. Let me just look in front of me here and see what I have here. Oh, right. Yeah, beef. Okay, so first of all, if you went online, as I have done in doing my homework, and all you do is Google in, best burgers, you're going to end up with 82 million results in like, a millisecond, right? And one of the things that you will come to is best burgers. 100 best burgers in the United States, best burger in every state, best blah, 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 blah. There's 1,000 best burgers. What I will say about this is it speaks to our kind of love of lists and also the complete subjectivity of them. I mean, some of the burger joints, some of the restaurants that you will see on these lists are repeated, by the way, on multiple lists, which in my estimation gives them a little bit more credence. If I see, for example, a particular burger place, restaurant, burger, whatever you want to call it, on like 5 lists of best burgers, there's a pretty decent chance that you will, that you're going to get a good burger there. And sometimes, by the way, these burgers are coming, they'll run you $5. I mean, there's nothing, you people out on the West Coast will tell you, there ain't nothing wrong with an In-N-Out burger, right? And if you're on the East Coast, but now expanding globally, your Shake Shack burger. And these are burgers that'll run you, $5-10, and you will see burgers on this list, that you're going to pay $28, $33 for. Personally, I'm a little bit more of a purist. A lot of the burger places that you will see online, there may be a few too many ingredients for my taste. It doesn't mean that they're not good. It's just that I think the best way, personally, to judge the greatness of a burger is going to be kind of the minimalist way. Kind of keep it to its most kind of simplistic presentation. The burger, the bun, and maybe whatever your favorite kind of way to top it is, whether it's a little bit of ketchup or the pickle or whatever you want to say. And here's another example, by the way, of acid. So in one of these lists, and this is the best burgers in the U.S. brought to you by Food and Wine magazine. One of the burgers on the list is the signature burger at the Zuni Cafe in San Francisco. All you need to know is that Zuni Cafe is one of the great restaurants in America. And you start with that, and then you see that what they're throwing on this list, and this is just, like 12 out of 25 of them, is the house ground hamburger, which is served in a grilled rosemary focaccia. You know what? I have no problem with that. And then it says, instead of traditional cucumber pickles, acidity, legendary chef owner Judy Rogers accents her burgers with thin-cut zucchini strips that were pickled in apple cider vinegar, mustard seeds, and turmeric. Again, my point is not whether or not this is the great burger. I don't have any doubt that it's a great burger. My point is only that don't underrate the importance of acidity, because what Judy Rogers, who's one of the great chefs in America, puts on her burger is basically pickled zucchini strips. And that shows up on that list. Okay, I think that's good. Let's just start with that, because we can always come back to these burger lists. I mean, it's amazing to me how many different variations and how many things to be excited about. But before we do that, let us talk to our man, Patrick Montgomery. Let me introduce Patrick to you. Patrick. Oh, Patrick, I got you there. Just got to lower the sound use so that we don't get any feedback. Okay, good. Now, Patrick Montgomery is a combat veteran who founded KC Cattle Company, and Patrick raises American Wagyu beef on his ranch, which is staffed fully by fellow veterans, just outside of Kansas City, Missouri. Patrick, are you there?
Yes, sir.
There you go, Patrick. Lovely to meet you by long distance. Tell everybody, Patrick, where exactly you are in America.
Sure, we're located up here in Weston, Missouri. It's God's country, just up north of downtown Kansas City, Missouri, about 45 minutes.
Patrick, you have served in the military. Is that is the case? Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Well, two things. First of all, I tell you, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your service. I mean that always, because this country is what it is because we have people that are willing to defend it. So I thank you for that, first of all.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for taking the time to thank me.
No, thank you for your service, and that's number one. And number two, Patrick, where did you? Just out of curiosity, by the way, where did you do your service?
Sure. So I was located down in Savannah, Georgia, in 1st Ranger Battalion. It's a pretty busy unit. We did quite a few deployments over to the Middle East, and those guys are staying busy these days as well.
Gotcha, Patrick. What you raised? So there's a lot of questions I could ask you. So let's just start, and don't mind my inquisitiveness. But first of all, what got you into beef?
It's kind of a funny question, Rob. So, when I was coming up for re-enlistment in the military there, my wife now, we were dating at the time, and, she was like, is there anything else you want to try in the civilian world besides the military? And, she was kind of trying to turn me on to a few different things in the civilian world, and one of the things she brought up was being a veterinarian. And, I kind of did my research on it and figured out between the GI Bill and some of the other incentives that the state of Missouri offers combat veterans, figured out I can make it through almost all of my schooling without taking out student loans, which was important to me. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to get out, and I went back to the University of Missouri, and I was doing my undergraduate in animal science, and I kind of fell in love with the beef cattle side. And, I love the medicine aspect, but, I just figured out that was a lot of schooling, and, there's just not a lot of money in large animal veterinary medicine these days. Mm-hmm. And so, something else I kind of discovered while I was going back to school was how much I love business. And so this was kind of a great pairing between the two, because there wasn't a whole lot of competition in the Kansas City market yet for Wagyu.
What and so that's the next question. Wagyu. Why Wagyu? Why Wagyu?
It's pretty tough for cattle ranchers nowadays to make a full-time living off doing a cow-calf operation or even seed stock a lot of the time. So trying to go farm to table is kind of a business plan that I started my last semester at college there, in the anticipation and the hopes, I should say rather, that I could do this full time. And so, part of that was raising a really quality product. Well, as you well know, you can't really beat Wagyu, whether it's the hamburgers or the steaks. I mean, it's just kind of a cut above the rest.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell me about it. Tell me, first of all, two things, Patrick. Tell me, what it is about Wagyu that makes it special, and how do you get to what's the operation like? I mean, you're raising cattle, yes?
Right. Yes, that's correct.
And so tell everybody, what it is that makes Wagyu special. And also, and I'm asking this out of complete naivete because I don't know. We know that it's I assume it's like a Japanese kind of breed. How do you raise them here?
Okay. Yeah. So, first off, I'll start with the difference of Wagyu. First of all, it is an actual breed of cattle. You're right in that aspect. It does hail from Japan, and two of the things that make it different from other breeds of cattle is actually a mutation that allows for that the excess intramuscular fat that you see above other breeds of cattle. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, it's actually got a lower melting temperature for that intramuscular fat. So it's going to have a much more buttery flavor to the steaks and the hamburger. As far as actual husbandry for raising the cattle, we try to do it as similar as possible to what the Japanese do. We do not feed our animals beer, and they do not get massages, but they are treated very well out here in western Missouri. And we do try to model the diet pretty closely to what they do in Japan. Obviously, there's a few ingredients that we can't get a hold of here in America that they do use over there. But so we buy feeder calves. They come in at roughly 500-600 pounds, and we feed them out to roughly 1,500 to 1,700 pounds is what we shoot for. Wow. And then take them up to a USDA processor, and then we bring them back for shipping out some really quality product to the whole United States.
Excellent. Well, we'll come back to how people can, because you ship this thing out to basically all 48 lower states in America. So, I mean, anybody who wants to ultimately try Wagyu, we'll tell them in a couple of minutes how to get it from you. But let's talk about some of the other things, like how do you make a burger with that stuff? Like, what's your kind of magic mix?
Sure. So we start out, you mentioned 80-20. That is our typical go-to. Anything you order on our website is 80-20. It's kind of the happy medium. We have some chefs that I've worked with in the past that have gone all the way up to 60-40 mix, which is a little too rich for my taste. But so we do the 80-20. I do use a binding agent, normally 1 egg to 1 pound of ground beef. I try to keep it simple, though. I really liked what you were saying about not getting too creative with the ingredients. I really like to showcase the meat, and I think the best way to do that is to use as few ingredients as possible and then cooking it to the right temperature. Our burgers definitely do not do well being cooked above medium. You cook out all that delicious fat, and the burgers shrink like crazy.
Right.
So we cook them to medium. I throw a little bit of egg in there, a small amount of flour, a tiny bit of sugar, and I do a little bit of salt right before I throw them on the grill, and that's really it.
Let me
You got to start with the quality ingredients to have a really quality burger.
For sure. Well, let me ask you something. When when you ship the meat, though, you're not shipping it with all those things in it. You're basically just shipping the actual burger meat. You don't add all those other things to what you ship, or do you?
No. Yeah, we ship it in 1 pound cryo packs.
Got it.
So that's how the customer receives it.
Right. Now, and by the way, I guess my question to you, based on what I had said before, is if I don't want to use any binding agent, can I just go straight up? Can I just form myself a nice, quarter pound or half pound patty and just, grill it up until I get my medium rare on both sides, hit it up with some salt? I mean, I know you're telling me like an egg and the flour and that kind of thing. That's like for you, but I'm saying, couldn't I just do this thing pure Wagyu?
Sure, absolutely. One of the few complaints we get is because of that lower melting temperature, if you're cooking on an open flame, you just got to be a little careful because it flames up like crazy. I'd say that's one of the complaints I get the most often from customers. So we definitely try to warn them about that. But cooking it straight up, something I've definitely done before, and it still turns out just as delicious. So.
Gotcha. And you also
just get a little better form to it with the egg in there. That's the only reason I like doing it.
Got you. What's and you shipping the actual not only the ground beef, you're shipping out cuts of steak too, yes?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. It's tough to keep the steaks in stock. They go like wildfire. So
that moves pretty quick. And is it the same situation where basically you're cooking to medium rare? I mean, is kind of ideal. You don't want to cook out too much of the fat and the flavor.
Absolutely, yeah. It's tough for me when I hear a customer tell me they cooked one of my steaks to well done.
Yeah, no, I don't invite those people over for dinner, Patrick. Just so that you know.
Yeah, they'll put A1 steak sauce on there. That's no good.
No, those are people that are steak haters, if you ask me. That's just I don't. I can be. We don't talk about politics ever on the show. We keep it to food. But I can be politically incorrect. I will tell people that if they're going to ruin steak by putting any kind of A1 sauce on it or cooking it to anything over medium, they're not invited, and I have no faith in them. So no, you don't want to. And the better the meat, the less you really want to do with it. In fact, do you ever eat it raw?
So I have done that. There's actually a really great chef that works down the street from me. We're pretty fortunate to have him there, and he does a beef tartare with some of our tenderloin trimmings, and so I've had that raw, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I grew up. My grandfather was in the meat business. I grew up eating, not knowing. I was 2 years old. I was eating raw, chopped meat that they had just chopped in his shop. So I grew up, to this day, I love a steak tartare. Now, in that, I would put an egg. This is very good. So you got the Wagyu, you got the, you can make your burgers out of the chopped meat that you ship in 1 pound packages. And then how many different kind of cuts of steak do you offer up? Like what are the kind of the main ones?
So I'd say obviously our best sellers are ribeye, strip, fillet. We do sell some more unique cuts on there. We got the Denver steak. My personal favorites are hanger steaks. Those go really quick because you only get a few per animal. The sirloins are all your standard cuts are on there. Some of the more unique ones though, we do chuck eye steaks, Denver steaks, hanger steaks are on there, all of which are incredible. So,
how much do you, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you get for those hanger steaks?
The hanger steaks we sell for $40, and they're normally about 1 to 2 pounds.
Got it. That's very interesting. All right, so first of all, before I forget, Patrick, let's tell people, I'm going to say, let me just see if I have it anywhere in front of me, www.kccattlecompany.com, kccattlecompany.com, is that correct?
That's correct, sir. Yes, absolutely.
So if somebody wanted to order some American-grown, it's fair to say it's American-grown, I guess, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So if somebody wants to order some American-grown Wagyu beef, in any one of the cuts that you just mentioned, or even ground to make beautiful hamburgers, they're going to go to www.kccattlecompany.com, and you're going to ship to them in the 48 in any one of the 48 lower states. So if you're listening to this from, I'm going to say, Alaska or Hawaii, yeah, you're not getting the Wagyu, are you? All right, so correct. That's good. All right, and you're just so that people are clear, when you send out your burger meat, it's a 80-20 composition, 80% and then lean, and then 20% fat, and that's some good fat you got there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Some people ask for lean, which is obviously good for some recipes, but the thing you're really showcasing with the Wagyu is the fat. So the 80-20 is kind of our secret weapon. I wouldn't say secret, but it's definitely the most delicious mix.
Nice. And the company is not only veteran founded, that's you, but and you employ all your staff as veterans, and also it looks like you give 10% of your sales to veterans organizations.
That's correct. Yeah, it's kind of something we hold near and dear to our heart. When I initially started this business, it was kind of I really found healing in the transition from the military to what I do now, and I figured if I can have benefit, then I should pass that along to some of my comrades, and it's kind of really been almost selfish on my part, because it's awesome watching some of these guys come out of their shells after exiting the military and being able to help them try to find that next footing in their life.
You're a good man. Hey, let me ask you this: when you do up a burger for yourself, how do you like it? What do you put on your burger? Or did you tell me that before and I've already forgotten?
I did tell you that before. I do a little bit of egg, some salt before I throw it on the grill.
No, forget the mix. Once the hamburger is ready, how do you consume it? What, any kind of condiments, any kind of like bun? Like, what's your go-to style?
Yeah, so I do a little bit of mayonnaise is what I prefer, actually, and besides that, I do some pickles, and that's really it.
There you go.
With the bun. So
all right, well there you go, everybody. That's Patrick Montgomery. Patrick, thanks for coming in, and lovely to talk to you. Keep up the good work. Trust me, as soon as I'm done with the podcast, I'm going to be logging on and ordering myself a little bit of the product, because I want to have some Wagyu, baby.
Well, I appreciate it, Rob. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, Patrick. Good talking to you. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye. Well, there you go. That is a man who's raising cattle and turning it into lovely product. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to taste some of that, but man, it does sound good. Wagyu. American Wagyu. Now, let's go back, if we can, to, let's go back to this food and wine list. Let's just see what's on here besides that. Oh, yeah. 27 of these things. I trust. Let's see what Food and Wine thinks is the good burger here. All right, best burgers in the U.S. Signature Burger in Memphis, nice. Mission Bowling Club, okay. Los Angeles, the double cheeseburger at A-Frame, nice. There was some things here that, yeah, and again, here's so this is a place in New York. I've actually had the burger here, and I admit that it's awesome. So there's a place in New York City called the Brindle Room. The signature burger is the Sebastian Steakhouse Burger. 21-day dry-aged beef blend with fatty deckle. Oh, what is the deckle? The deckle is it's one of the parts of the ribeye, and it's the part that a lot of people just kind of stay away from because it's a little bit, it has a little strip of fat in it and connective tissue. So sometimes it's a little bit chewy, but I'll tell you what, it's huge flavor. So, again, basically as a purist, get me the best possible meat that you can. And most of these, on all of these lists, are that kind of combination of 80% lean, 20% fat, because that basically keeps it kind of juicy, and fat carries a lot of flavor. And what do they serve on the signature burger here in New York's Brindle Room? Yeah, melted American cheese and caramelized onions. I've had it. It's a great burger. Let's see what else. Shake Shack's burger makes the list. The Lola burger is where? Michael Simon. Oh, sure. Ohio, Cleveland, probably. Minetta Tavern in New York serves a Black Label burger. Again, caramelized onions. Why? Not only because they bring a touch of sweetness, but they also add that umami quotient. If you had the Black Label burger at New York's Minetta Tavern, that would set you back about $33. And some of the burgers on this list, let me see if I can find, California In-N-Out burger. How much is that? $5, $6, $7, $8? So you don't have to spend a lot to get a great burger. What else is on here? You got a Florida thing. You got, but I would say onion certainly seems to be, there's your bacon double cheeseburger up in Boston, Mass. At Green Street Grill. Hey, my friends up at the Boston radio station producing this show, there's an operation up there called Green Street Grill, which you may have heard of. The bacon double cheese, 2 4-ounce beef patties with white American smoked bacon and Russian dressing in a white bun. And then some house-made kettle chips. And there's no question about it, by the way, that, I know it seems kind of dumb obvious, but the accompaniment to the great burger is always the great French fry. Although in this case, kettle chips, potato chips. Napa, I'm not talking about, Louis Lunch, New Haven, Connecticut, folks, if you haven't heard of it. Louis Lunch is considered to be, or by some to be, like the original first ever hamburger in America in New Haven, Connecticut, making burgers there since 1900 and still literally using the same kind of antique cast iron broilers over an open flame, and you do not ask for condiments there. They don't give them to you. It is a burger made from their combination of chuck and sirloin. The burger is made, as I told you, on this kind of cast iron grill, which is fascinating to see. And then it comes out and it's served, I believe, between 2 pieces of white bread. And do not ask for condiments. They're not putting anything on that. What else is here? Los Angeles has a whole bunch. The Office Burger over at Father's Office. Little Al, Jolie Campanaro, New York City, makes a beautiful bacon cheese. His bun has just a hint of molasses. Pickles are from the Lower East Side, Gus's Pickles. And so there you have it. That's the list from Great Burger here in Dearborn, Michigan. What place? It's world famous Ground Round Burger at the world famous Ground Round Burger. Oh no, wait, that's Dearborn. Oh, Miller's Bar. Sorry, Miller's Bar. What else is happening here in Healdsburg? Of course, in California, you're going to get great food there. New Jersey loves their white manna cheeseburger, again topped with onions, old school style. Peter Luger, perhaps the country's most famous steak restaurant, also serves the Luger burger. I don't know if they do it at dinner. I know you would pop in there for lunch. And they're serving it with raw onions on a sesame bun, Georgia, etc., etc. So that's what Food and Wine is reporting. Then now here's another list. This is Best Burgers in America, brought to you by who? Time Out magazine. You know that one, right? So some of these, again, you're going to see repeated. Like, for example, the Black Label Burger at Minetta Tavern in Greenwich Village. That shows up. But then you start seeing, like, the burgers at a place in New Mexico. The Green Chili Cheeseburger at Sparky's in Hatch. Now, Hatch is famous for the Hatch chili, so, the burger there is going to be the Green Chili Cheeseburger. Juicy meat, melty cheese, piquant pepper that is perfection. Loaded, beautiful burger, pineapple coleslaw. Oh, man, I'm not hungry because I already ate the dinner, but you start thinking about juicy burgers and that juice dripping down your chin and all these different combinations. Let's see if there's some that have, so there's some that I argue have maybe more on them than I really do want on them. Half pound, like, for example, this one here, the Cleveland Burger at the Rowley Inn in Cleveland. Handsome dive killer burgers stacked high on perfectly toasted bun. The Clevelander is the way to go. A stack of juicy half-pound beef burger with griddled kielbasa, tangy sauerkraut, melty beer cheese, and a whole potato pierogi, all held tenuously together with a long toothpick. Be ready to get messy. So, here's the thing, by the way. You can't have those all the time. And again, I confess to being more of a purist, but there's something exciting about having a burger with all those things on them. What's the best burger that you have ever had? By the way, I don't know that the system is working. If you want to call in, I feel like I've given that number before or not. We could talk about your favorite burgers. Pennsylvania Cheeseburger in Philadelphia. What do they do? It's a $5 cheeseburger at Fountain Porter in Philadelphia. Well, there you go. Rhode Island's got the burger. Husk Cheeseburger at Husk in Charleston. Great restaurant. What do they put on their burger? 2 patties, sandwiching gooey American cheese, house-made condiments, including bread and butter pickles, of course, because you need the acidity. And they put theirs on a buttermilk bun. South Dakota has a burger. The PBR, Tennessee, in the pharmacy in Nashville, with Swiss and Munster and cheddar, 3 types of cheese. And you add a little tomato and some roasted garlic aioli, all on a fluffy bun. That's in Nashville, Tennessee at the pharmacy. Texas, they're going to do something big in Texas. Blue Ribbon Burger at a restaurant called Cured in the North River District of San Antonio, Texas. The pretty plate pair. Oh, you have a nice cocktail, aged tequila, and the Papa Doble, white rum and grapefruit, blah, blah, blah. Blue Ribbon offers a eponymous burger at lunch. Juicy bacon and beef patty, and you can have 2 or 3 patties, American, and sweet sticky onion jam. So, yeah, onion is showing up all over the place. Vermont, farmhouse beef burger at the farmhouse in lovely Burlington. There you go, with bright arugula and pickled red onions. Again, the beauty of that combination is the bitterness from the arugula, the acidity from the onions juxtaposed against the richness of the meat, and all of a sudden you go, whoa, this is beautiful. Bacon and cheese will not hurt anybody. What do you got here? Seattle, it's going to have great burgers. Fayetteville, West Virginia, Wisconsin. Yeah, this is good. Excellent burgers. Fast food garnish of choice of relish, fried or raw onions, ketchup, mustard, mayo, lettuce, pickles, and American cheese. So there you go. So that's another burger list. Now, who's this? Oh, yeah, here you go. This is what I was thinking of. You can go to CNBC, seems to have picked up something from TripAdvisor. And this burger in Billings, Montana looked interesting to me. Premium Angus beef, locally made bun. It's called, the signature burger is called I'm Your Huckleberry. The burger is covered with huckleberry hatch chili, barbecue sauce, bacon, goat cheese, roasted red pepper, mayo, and arugula. Now, this is a prize-winning burger. And yet, It's got a lot of stuff on it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just a lot going on there on your Huckleberry burger. Huckleberry, hatch, chili, barbecue sauce. Okay, fine. Bacon, yes. Goat cheese and roasted red pepper mayo and arugula. And that won a prize. The Food Network will have you know that they have a list of top 5 burgers too. Their burgers include the Mission Bowling Club in San Francisco. Here's what they sear their burgers in beef fat and then top it with a house-made caper aioli, caramelized onions, and Monterey Jack. Yeah, that's not going to be bad, right? What else they got? What other kind of burgers are going on here? The onion. Yeah, this one looked interesting to me as well. The onion burger. Here's one in Oklahoma, El Reno, Oklahoma. It takes simple ingredients. The key is Spanish yellow onions that owner Marty Hole slices until paper thin and then adds directly to the patty. Right? So he's grilling the patty and the onions together. Homemade spatula flattens out the meat. And that's a big thing, too, this idea of kind of like flattening out the meat to get it like all crispy. And it gives the onions, in this case, the perfect surface area to get crispy and golden brown. Now, because we mentioned the spatula and the flattening thing, I want to tell you that generally speaking, flattening your burger is not a good idea. Right? We're going to talk about here some of the things that make a burger, how to make a great burger, right? So first of all, that combination of 80-20. It could all be ground chuck, or you'll find that a lot of places are using different mixes. Some places are using, a combination of chuck and brisket meat or whatever. So, but the point is that it does have to have a sufficient percentage of fat in it so that you get the right kind of texture and the right flavor and the right kind of juiciness. When you make a patty, make a thumbprint in the middle of the patty. It's a deep depression in the center of every patty that you're going to cook, and it keeps the burger from puffing up and bulging in the center. Otherwise, it like plumps up like a football, and then people smash it down, and smashing it down is the last thing you want to do. So when you put in that indent, that thumbprint in the fixture, it kind of like the burger does not end up ballooning up and tempt you to squish it down. It ends up the patty in exactly the shape that you want. Don't put a lot of seasoning in your burger meat. You're going to end up using basically salt and pepper, and you don't even put them into the mix. Don't put the salt and pepper on, and I would even argue, I'm not sure that I would even put the pepper on it as I was cooking it. I don't love putting pepper on before I put something on like a hot surface or a grill. But salt, fine. But I'm saying, grab yourself some kosher salt. You want to be able to feel, you want kosher salt, you want salt that has texture, right? So it's a salt that is thick and flaky, not table salt, okay? But don't put that salt on that burger until that burger hits the heat. All right? You put that salt in the burger meat too early and it drains the juice from the burger, right? So salt comes on late. That's hint number 3. Use, if you have it, and if you don't, I recommend you get it, a cast iron skillet that you put to very high heat. Damn, I love my cast iron. I use it all the time, whether I'm making eggs in the morning or pancakes or roasting a chicken in the oven at night. It goes into my cast iron. I use it over and over again for almost everything. No, you can't stick it in the dishwasher. And by the way, no, you can't do a lot of flipping or sauteing with it because it's heavy as heck. But it's the heaviness that you are paying for because it holds and retains heat beautifully. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Tip number 4 on your burger. A little bit of lubrication in the form of a neutral oil. Grapeseed, canola, avocado oil is fantastic and healthy. So just a little bit in the pan, right? You've taken your burger blend mix. Mine's going to be Wagyu, for example. And you're going to put the cast iron pan up to super high heat so that there's smoke. I always like to smoke until about the moment I hear the smoke alarm go. Then I know it's hot enough. And if you use the neutral oil, you can actually heat it to a high heat, which is great. And then you put that indented patty on the cast iron. You're going to cook for a couple of minutes on one side. And I mean a couple. That's 2, it's 3, depending on how fat your burger is. You're going to flip it and cook it for once. You're going to flip it, by the way. That's rule number 5. You're going to flip it one time and one time only. So make sure it's cooked to nice crispy on one side. And then flip it over and cook it about half the time that you cooked it on the first time on the second side, right? Because you want to go for medium rare. I would pull it off before it hits medium, because if you pull it off at medium rare, let it sit for a second, it'll inch its way up to medium. And then you're good. Nice soft potato, whatever your favorite thing is, I mean, I happen to love those, those potato rolls, man. Who makes those? Is it Martin's? And I think that's what they use at Shake Shack. It's just lovely, mushy. Because that combination of that hamburger, man, just dripping down your chin on that soft bun. Whatever else you use as a condiment, good for you. Keep it simple. Whether it's the pickle or the ketchup, or I was kind of surprised to hear mayo, but then again, Patrick is in the heartland. Very popular for people to use the mayo, and I suppose the mustard too. I don't use mustard on a hamburger. If I'm going to put a condiment on, and I will just give it a touch of ketchup. It's all I want. As I said, put that burger in there. You're going to only flip it one time. Do not squeeze.
Hey, wake up.
I'm coming. I hear you, man. 1 minute to closing time. So the last couple of thoughts here. You're only going to flip it once. Pull it before it gets crazy. Like a medium is going to be, maybe 7 minutes, depending on the thickness. Throw on whatever, cheese you want. If you want to melt some cheese, throw the cheese on top. Put a tablespoon of water around the burger and put a lid on it. That'll help melt the cheese. And then get yourself a squishy bun. All right. So that's how you make a perfect burger. And there you go. The Burger Show. Thank you, Patrick Montgomery. You know where to get his stuff. I think I told you that a number of times. KCCattleCompany.com. I am Rob Rosenthal. This was episode 33 of All You Can Eat. I'll be back next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Remember, until then, my friends, enjoy. Life is short, so never wait a minute.